Ladies and gentlemen, today I am going to discuss something that is so important in our walk with God, His perfect timing. How many of you have ever felt like God was taking too long? You prayed, you fasted, you cried out, and still nothing. It feels like you're knocking on a door that just won't open, like you're waiting on something that seems like it's never going to happen. Can I be real with you for a second? That waiting season can feel like the loneliest, most discouraging place to be. But let me tell you something today. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen at the right time. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. I want to take you to a scripture that has been a lifeline for me in difficult seasons, Habakkuk 2:3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." Somebody in this room needs to hear this today. The vision God placed inside of you is for an appointed time. The healing, the breakthrough, the answer to your prayers is coming at the right moment. But here's the part that stretches us. That moment is not determined by our impatience, our deadlines, or our frustration. It is determined by God, and He knows exactly what He is doing. I remember a time in my life when I was desperate for God to move. I had made mistakes. I had lost my confidence, and I was wrestling with whether or not I even had a future beyond my failures. I cried out to God, "Oh Lord, when are you going to step in? When are you going to change this situation?" And can I tell you something? God didn't move when I wanted Him to. But when He did move, it was exactly what I needed. See, we think we're ready for the blessing, but if we're honest, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're asking for things we don't have the capacity to handle yet. We're praying for doors to open when we haven't yet developed the strength to walk through them. We want the promise, but we don't want the preparation. And God loves us too much to give us something prematurely. Think about a pregnant woman. She knows her due date, but no matter how excited she is, no matter how much she prepares, that baby will not come before it is fully developed. If it does, it's premature. And that comes with complications. Some of us are frustrated with God, but we don't realize that what we're asking for is still being developed inside of us. The business, the ministry, the marriage, the breakthrough, it has a due date. And if God gives it to you too soon, you won't be able to carry it. I want to remind you today that just because something is delayed doesn't mean it is denied. Some of you are in a waiting season and you feel forgotten, but God has not forgotten you. He sees your prayers, He hears your cries, and He is moving even when you don't feel it. Let me ask you a question. What if the waiting isn't about what God is doing for you, but what He is doing in you? What if this delay is actually protection? What if God is holding something back because He knows it's not fully ready? What if He's developing strength, endurance, and faith inside of you so that when the promise does come, you won't just receive it, you'll sustain it? I think about Joseph in the Bible. God gave him a vision of his future, but before he could step into that promise, he had to go through a process. He was thrown into a pit by his brothers. He was sold into slavery. He was lied on, imprisoned, and forgotten. But at the right time, God elevated him. If Joseph had stepped into his destiny too soon, he wouldn't have been able to handle it. But by the time he got there, he had the character, the wisdom, and the maturity to walk in it. Some of you are frustrated because you see the vision, but you're still in the process. Can I encourage you today? Don't despise the process. The waiting is where God is shaping you. The waiting is where He is strengthening you. The waiting is where He is making sure that when the promise comes, you will be ready. So, what do you do while you wait? You trust Him, you stay faithful. You keep praying, keep preparing, and keep believing that God is not a man that He should lie. If He said it, He will do it. If He promised it, He will bring it to pass. Somebody in here needs to declare over their life today, "Lord, I trust your timing. Even when I don't understand it, I trust you. Even when I don't see it, I believe you. Even when it feels like you've forgotten me, I know you are still working. Because at the appointed time, your door will open. Your breakthrough will come. And when it does, you will look back and say, God, I see now why I had to wait." But let me tell you something even deeper. Sometimes when we're in that waiting season, the enemy starts whispering lies. He'll say, there's no way out of this. Oh, we're stuck. It's over for you. He wants you to believe that because you don't see a way, there isn't one. But let me remind you who our God is. Our God is the way maker. He is the God who creates a path where there is none. He is the God who does the impossible. And just because you don't see a way right now doesn't mean that there isn't one in the making. I need somebody to catch this. God does his best work in impossible situations. The enemy wants you to think that because you're facing a dead end, your story is finished. But what the enemy calls the end, God calls the setup. And if you don't believe me, let's take a trip back to the book of Exodus. The children of Israel had just been freed from slavery. God had brought them out with a mighty hand, but suddenly they found themselves trapped. The Red Sea was in front of them, and Pharaoh's army was behind them. No escape, no options, no way out. And some of them started saying, it would have been better if we had just stayed in Egypt. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt so stuck that you started looking back? Started wondering if maybe it would have been easier to just settle? Started questioning if you even heard God right. But Moses stood up in the middle of their fear, and he said, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. Exodus 14:13. And in the next moment, God parted the sea. I don't think y'all heard me. He parted the sea. He made a way where there was no way. And the very thing that should have drowned them became the path that led them to freedom. I need you to understand something. What looks impossible to you is just another opportunity for God to show his power. Some of you feel surrounded right now. You feel like Pharaoh's army is closing in on you. Maybe it's bills piling up. Maybe it's a diagnosis that has left you afraid. Maybe it's a relationship that seems beyond repair. And you're standing there looking at the Red Sea thinking, God, I don't see a way. But can I tell you something? You don't have to see the way for God to make the way. When God makes a way, it won't always look the way you expect it to. Sometimes we want him to take the mountain away, but instead, he gives us the strength to climb it. We want him to remove the battle, but instead, he teaches our hands to fight. And sometimes we think the Red Sea is our problem, but really, it's our passage. What if the obstacle you're facing isn't there to stop you, but to grow you? I feel that for somebody, God didn't bring you this far to leave you now. If he led you to it, he will lead you through it. And listen, I know it's hard when you don't understand. I know it's hard when you feel like you've been waiting for so long and you still don't see a way out. But let me remind you of something. The Israelites didn't part the sea. God did. You don't have to figure this out on your own. You don't have to make a way because God already has. You may not see it yet, but that doesn't mean he isn't working behind the scenes. Some of you are about to walk into a season where God is going to make a way in ways you never expected. Doors you thought were shut forever, watch him open them. Relationships you thought were over, watch him restore them. Situations you thought would never change, watch him turn them around. Because he is the God of the impossible. And I need you to catch this. When God makes a way, it's undeniable. Nobody will be able to take credit for what he's about to do in your life. When the Israelites walked through the Red Sea on dry ground, nobody could say, oh, Moses did that. No, that was all God. And when God brings you through, you're going to have the kind of testimony that makes people stop and say, had to be God. So I need you to do something. I need you to stop looking at the Red Sea and start looking at your God. Stop magnifying the problem and stop magnifying. Because the same God who parted the sea back then is the same God who is fighting for you right now. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So if he did it before, he can do it again. I don't know who this is for, but I feel this so strong. Don't give up now. You are closer than you think. God is about to step in, and when he does, you're going to look back and say, Lord, I see now. I see why I had to wait. I see why it had to happen this way. I see why I had to trust you, because when he makes a way, it's always worth the wait. No. And I need you to hear me. When God makes a way, he doesn't do it halfway. He doesn't just kind of deliver you. He doesn't just sort of heal you. When he moves in power. But let me tell you something that the enemy doesn't want you to realize. God's power is greater than any obstacle in your life. See, some of us believe in God's power in theory, but when we face a real battle, our faith starts to shake. We sing about miracles on Sunday, but struggle to believe for one on Monday. We talk about how big our God is, but then we let fear, doubt, and anxiety tell us that our problems are bigger. But can I remind you of something? There is nothing bigger than God. There is no sickness, no situation, no financial crisis, no heartbreak, no failure, nothing that has more power than the God you serve. Somebody needs to catch this. God is not intimidated by your problem. That thing that has you up at night, stressing and worrying, it is not too hard for him. That situation that looks impossible, God laughs at impossible. The mountain that won't seem to move, God can make it crumble in a second. But here's where we get stuck. We give too much credit to the obstacles and not enough to our God. We stare at the problem so long that we forget who we're walking with. We analyze, we overthink, we try to figure it out. But what if I told you that the battle you're fighting isn't even yours to fight? I need somebody to hear this. The fight is fixed. I think about David when he stood in front of Goliath. Everyone around him was terrified. They saw how big the giant was. They heard how loud he was. They felt how impossible it seemed. But David looked at that same giant and said, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I'll come against you in the name of the Lord." David understood something that we need to grab hold of today. Goliath wasn't bigger than God. And I need you to declare that over your situation today. This is not bigger than my God. Your financial crisis, not bigger than God. That sickness, not bigger than God. That generational curse trying to hold you back, not bigger than God. God doesn't just make a way, he destroys obstacles. He breaks chains, he pulls down strongholds. And if you need proof, just look at the cross. The enemy thought he had won when Jesus was crucified. He thought it was over. He thought that obstacle, the grave, was too big, too final. But on the third day, God showed us that nothing can stop his power, not even death. So if death itself couldn't hold back the power of God, what makes you think your situation can? Some of you have been walking around defeated. You've been carrying fear. You've been shrinking back. But I came to tell you today, you are more than a conqueror. You don't have to live in fear. You don't have to let the enemy tell you what you can't do, what you'll never overcome, what you'll never be, because the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is living inside of you. I feel that so strongly for somebody. You've been acting like you're powerless when God already gave you everything you need to win. You don't have to fight for victory. You fight from victory. The Bible says, with man, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. That means that when God steps in, the impossible becomes possible. That means when God speaks, walls fall. That means when God moves, chains break. But here's what you have to decide. Are you going to keep giving power to your problems, or are you going to stand on the power of God? I know the doctor's report looks bad, but what did God say? I know the bank account is low, but what did God say? I know it feels like you can't take another step, but what did God say? God said you are healed. God said you are provided for. God said he is fighting for you. God said he will make a way. And if he said it, that settles it. Some of you need to start talking like you believe God's power is real. Start praying like you believe mountains move. Start walking like you know God has already made a way. Because when you truly believe in his power, you stop fearing the problem. You stop stressing over what looks impossible. And you start standing in faith saying, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know my God will come through. And let me tell you something, when you believe like that, mountains start moving. Because faith, real faith doesn't wait for the situation to change before it starts praising. Real faith doesn't wait for the breakthrough to start declaring the victory. Real faith starts walking even when the path isn't clear. I feel this for somebody. You've been waiting for everything to make sense before you move. You've been waiting to have all the answers, to see the whole picture, to know every single step. But can I remind you that faith isn't about knowing every step? It's about trusting the one who does. Some of us want the Red Sea to part before we take a step. We want the miracle in our hands before we say yes. We want to see the outcome before we move in obedience. But can I tell you something? Sometimes God is waiting on you to move before he makes the way. I think about Joshua and the Israelites when they were standing at the Jordan River. Now I need y'all to catch this. The Jordan River was at flood stage. This wasn't just a small stream they could wade through. This was a raging, overwhelming, impossible to cross river. And yet, God told them to step in first. He didn't say, "Oh, wait until the water stops." He didn't say, "Oh, watch me part it first." No, he said, "Step in." And when the priests carrying the ark put their feet in the water, then the river stopped flowing. Then the way was made. Somebody in this room needs to hear this. God is waiting on you to take the first step. You've been praying for him to make a way, and he's saying, "I already have," but you won't see it until you step in. That business you've been afraid to start. Step in. That ministry God put in your heart. Step in. That healing you've been waiting for. Step in by faith. That restoration in your family. Step in and believe for it. Because faith moves first. I need you to understand this. Faith is not passive. Faith isn't sitting back waiting for God to do everything. Faith is active. Faith says, "God, I trust you enough to move even when I don't see the full picture." And some of us have been stuck because we've been waiting for God to do what he already gave us the power to do. God is saying, "I've already equipped you. I've already called you. I've already prepared the way." But you have to take the step. Think about Peter walking on water. The miracle didn't happen while he was standing in the boat. It happened when he stepped out. And I know stepping out can be scary. I know it's easier to stay in what's comfortable. I know it's tempting to wait for a sign, a confirmation, another word, another season. But can I tell you the truth? Obedience is the confirmation. Some of you already know what God told you to do. You already know the promise he placed inside of you. But instead of moving, you've been hesitating. Instead of trusting, you've been questioning. But God is calling you deeper. He's calling you out of the boat. He's calling you into the unknown. And he's saying, "Oh, will you trust me enough to move?" Because here's the thing, when you step in faith, God meets you there. When the Israelites stepped into the Jordan, the water stopped. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he walked on water. When the woman with the issue of blood reached out, she was healed. Faith activates the miracle. But what happens if you don't move? What happens if you let fear keep you stuck? I need you to catch this. Sometimes the delay isn't God's doing. Sometimes the delay is your hesitation. God is saying, "I'm ready to move, but will you trust me enough to step?" And I feel this so strong. Somebody in this room is one step away from seeing the promise. One step away from the breakthrough. One step away from walking in everything God has for you. But you have to make the move. So I need you to ask yourself, what have I been holding back on? What have I been waiting for a sign on when God already told me to go? What fear have I been allowing to keep me from the fullness of what God has for me? Because the same God who made a way before will do it again. The same God who opened the Red Sea is the same God who is opening doors for you. The same God who shut the mouths of lions is the same God who is shutting down every attack against you. But you have to move. I know it's scary. I know it's uncertain. But can I tell you a secret? God already went before you. He already cleared the path. He already set up the provision. He already aligned the right connection. So why are you waiting? Faith moves first. And when you move, when you step in, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's risky, that's when you'll see God make a way like never before. And hear me, when God makes a way, it won't look like what you expected. It won't always come in the way you imagined, because God doesn't just answer prayers, he exceeds them. Some of us have been looking for a way that fits within our logic, within our understanding. We've been expecting God to open a door that looks like the doors we've seen before. But can I tell you something? When God makes a way, he creates a new thing. I need somebody to grab this. God is not limited by what you've seen before. The reason you don't see a way is because you're looking for something familiar. You're looking for a path that makes sense. But God is saying, "I'm about to do something you've never seen before." I think about the Israelites when they were in the wilderness. They were hungry, and they didn't see a way for provision. They didn't see a grocery store. They didn't see farmland. They didn't see any resources. And they started wondering, God, how are we supposed to survive out here? And do you know what God did? He rained down manna from heaven. Let me say it again. He rained down food from the sky. Some of you have been looking for a door, and God is saying, I'm about to rain down blessings in a way you've never seen before. You've been expecting God to use what's in front of you, but He's about to bless you from a source you weren't even considering. He's about to provide in a way you weren't even thinking about. Because when God makes a way, He doesn't do it the way the world does it. He doesn't follow the rules. He doesn't need the approval of people. He doesn't need conditions to be favorable. He just speaks and the way is made. Somebody needs to stop trying to figure out the how and start trusting the hope. You keep asking God, how is this going to work? God, how are you going to fix this? God, how are you going to open this door? Not gonna open this door. And God is saying, stop worrying about the how and start trusting that I already have the answer. Because when God makes a way, it's undeniable. That means no one can take credit for what He's about to do in your life. That means no enemy can stop it. That means no opposition can block it. Because when God opens a door, no man can shut it. Some of you are about to walk into a season where God's favor is going to make people confused. They're going to look at you and say, how did you get that opportunity? How did you get that promotion? How did you step into that blessing? And all you'll be able to say is, God did it when it didn't make sense. God did it when the odds were stacked against you. God did it when people doubted you. God did it when you didn't even see a way, because that's who He is. He is the God of the impossible. And I need you to hear this. When God makes a way, it's permanent. Some of us have been afraid to step into what God is doing because we're worried it won't last. We're worried it'll fall apart. We're worried that if we step out, we might fail. But let me remind you of something. If God made the way, then it's already secured. I think about Noah. God told him to build an ark when there wasn't a drop of rain inside. People mocked him. People doubted him. But Noah built anyway. He trusted God before he saw the evidence. And when the rain finally came, it wasn't the storm that determined who survived. It was obedience. Some of you are looking at the storm around you, wondering if you're going to make it. But I came to tell you, if God told you to build it, then the storm can't break it. The business He told you to start, the storm can't break it. The ministry He called you to, the storm can't break it. The purpose on your life, the storm can't break it. Because when God establishes something, it is unshakable. And I feel this for somebody. You've been worried about losing what God gave you. You've been afraid that if you step into the blessing, it might disappear. But I need you to understand, God is not a temporary provider. He is Jehovah Jireh, the God who provides. And when He provides, it doesn't run out. The same God who gave you the opportunity will sustain you in it. The same God who opened the door will keep it open. The same God who started the work in you will complete it. So I need you to stop second-guessing what God is doing in your life. Stop doubting if you're qualified. Stop questioning if you deserve it. If God made the way, then you belong in the room He placed you in. I don't know who this is for, but you've been feeling unworthy of the blessing God has placed in your hands. You've been questioning if you're enough. But hear me, if God put you there, then you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Because when God makes a way, it's not based on your resume, it's based on His purpose. It's not based on who approves of you, it's based on who anointed you. It's not based on what the world says, it's based on what heaven has already declared. And I came to tell you, God has already declared victory over your life. The way has already been made, the door has already been opened. The provision has already been set. So stop questioning, stop hesitating, and stop walking in it. Because what God has for you, it is already done.